In my opinion, Iran has managed to take a balanced and well-considered position in this very difficult situation. Instead of slamming the door, it has built its work in the form of dialogue. The Iranians are not refusing to maintain talks and contacts with the IAEA. However, they must consider the risks that have emerged from Israeli and US strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. As a first step, they have agreed to receive a delegation from the IAEA Secretariat, headed by Deputy Director General for Safeguards, Massimo Aparo. The purpose of the visit is to decide how to proceed with the work, not to visit any facilities or conduct inspections. You know, even the Iranians themselves cannot answer this question definitively yet. They are busy assessing the damage, which was quite significant, at least at some facilities. However, it would be wrong to say that Iran's peaceful nuclear program no longer exists. Let's wait and see what happens. I think we'll have a clearer picture of the situation soon. There is a solution, and it is very simple. It was set out in the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action of the Iranian nuclear deal. It was agreed that Iran would enrich uranium to a very low level of 3.67%. Once more than 300 kilograms of enriched uranium has been accumulated, the surplus is exported abroad, in this case to the Russian Federation. The same applies now. It is possible to agree on a low enrichment level and on limiting volumes. All of this is entirely amenable to negotiation. For this to happen, only one thing is needed: for the United States to abandon its ideological and frivolous position of demanding zero enrichment. Personally, I have enormous doubts and questions about the position of the Europeans. Since 2022, when they blocked the final stage of work on restoring the JCPOA, they have behaved completely irrationally. This continues to this day. It's no coincidence that Israel's strikes occurred the day after the European Troika passed an anti-Iran resolution. The Europeans deny any involvement, claiming, "We have nothing to do with the strikes," yet they are, in effect, creating an atmosphere in which such strikes become a reality. When the Russian-Ukrainian conflict began and we took control of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi put forward 7 principles to ensure the safety of nuclear power plants in armed conflicts. One of these principles states that putting psychological pressure on plant personnel is unacceptable. In the case of the ZNPP, however, the pressure is enormous. First, Ukrainians are waging a campaign of psychological terror on social media. They are targeting specific individuals and employees, including waitresses working in the canteen, threatening their lives, safety, and health. Second, they are shelling Energoda, where the plant's employees and their families live. This is, of course, a violation of the relevant principle, yet we have been unable to convince Grossi to acknowledge this obvious fact despite raising the issue constantly. Virtually all Western countries were aware that the Ukrainian side carried out the attacks on the ZNPP at the time. Recently, however, the Ukrainians have not been striking the plant itself. Instead, they have been striking nearby sites, including the industrial area and the city of Energoda. Everyone knows who is behind this, yet our Western colleagues on the IAEA Board of Governors have not uttered a single word of condemnation. In my opinion, the most objective assessments came from the Swiss, the Hungarians, and the Singaporeans, who called on all parties concerned not to threaten nuclear facilities in Ukraine. In other words, they at least admitted that this threat could come from either Russia or Ukraine. The rest of the Board of Governors maintains that Russia is to blame for everything and has adopted resolutions calling on Russia to stop attacking nuclear facilities on Ukrainian territory. When we ask where, when, and against which facility did Russia carry out the attack, they remain silent. I can confirm that, yes, we invited the OPCW mission, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, to verify information about the use of chemical substances by the Ukrainian side during the armed conflict. The organization received our request and confirmed receipt. They informed us that they had taken the request under consideration. There are legal and practical aspects that need to be clarified. Currently, we have no grounds to criticize the OPCW. However, if nothing changes in a few months, we will probably have to revise our assessment for the worse.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.